once believed that hearing voices or having delusions meant someone was cursed or possessed. Can you take us back to the moment where you were first diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia?
So my friend got a record deal and he got an advance. When you get signed to a record label, they give you an advance, money up front. And he called me and said, yo, I got my advance. I want to go to Magaluf for a couple of days. I'm not going to say no. And at that time, I was so idle. I was doing nothing. So imagine doing nothing and getting a phone call. Even if he said, let's go to Oxford Street, I would have went with him. But imagine him saying, let's go to Magaluf. And he's paying for the ticket and everything.
What would you consider as the biggest misconception when it comes to schizophrenia?
Ooh.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Shelf Conversation. Today, we have a guest who embodies resilience, transformation, and the power of storytelling. He is the first male on this podcast with a male audience, contributing to approximately 70% of my global listeners and viewers. And he is the first person with a lived experience to be hosted on my podcast as well. This guest I'm talking about is a British rapper, a mental health advocate, a TEDx speaker, and now adding another feather to his cap, an author. Jeez. With roots in Tottenham and Nigeria heritage, his journey has been anything but ordinary. From the highs of music industry to the lows of personal battles, he has faced adversity head on and emerged stronger. His newly released book, A Session of My Life, isn't just a memoir. It's a window into his soul, a powerful narrative shaped by his experiences, including the challenges of mental health and being sectioned. The title itself is a clever double entendre, reflecting both the different chapters of his life and the mental health system impact on him. So get ready for an honest and eye-opening discussion as we explore some of these sections, break down stigmas, and dive deep into the mind of a man who refuses to be defined by his struggles. Without further ado, please welcome my guest, known in the music industry as Shocka, by his real name, Kenneth Erhahon. How you doing?
I'm good. That intro was beautiful. That's probably one of the best intros I've had.
I'm doing my very best. Thank you very much for coming to
It's
the
an
Shelf
honor. Can you
Conversation.
tell them how we met? Can we start there?
Should we?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Tell them how
So-
we met.
Honestly, I've been following Shocka on social media, on Instagram, where his works are really, really active. And as a mental health advocate myself, I was really drawn by the passion that you use to talk about mental health, not just as a topic in the community, but as someone who has experienced it, gone through the UK mental health care system. So when your book, to my viewers and my listeners, if you're viewing this, you can actually see this, A Session of My Life. And if you are listening to it as well, I would encourage you to go on my YouTube page to have a look at how the book looks like. So I grabbed the book because I've been following the journey. So when I got the book, I'm like, I'm gonna read. I need to read this book, you know. And one morning, I was on my route to go to the YouTube office for one of our meetings, and I saw, lo and behold, you go on the train.
I think I saw you first.
I think, yeah, you saw me. Then all of a sudden, we made eye contact. Then I was like, oh damn, that's Shocka. And I actually walked towards your side of the carriage, and we met. And I said the first thing that I said was, you need to sign this book. I said you need to sign, and you got it signed. Which,
What does it say?
it says to Kwame, this is God's plan, bro. Stay blessed. Love, Shocka. That's it. And I found it very, very I thought, as you said, it's God's plan, because I was reading your book on the train whilst I was going, and I just, the next moment, I see the author just not far away from me.
Exactly.
So it added more context to the book that what I'm reading, this is who I'm reading about.
It's a real life person.
It's a real life person, which is really good. So thank you very much for sharing with us in this book. And ever since we've actually stayed in touch, I've had a speaking engagement whereby I talked about your book. It was International Men's Day. Yeah, and you posted it, which is really good because we haven't got much of such people within our community. talking about their lived experience, because most of us who are doing advocacy, some of us, let me say, I will not say not most of us, because I'm also speaking from experience. Some people actually see it as an unaddressed problem. Henceforth, they need to talk about it in the
Hence
community.
why I took it upon myself.
Yeah.
Because after being sectioned multiple times, after the third time I got sectioned, before the doctor discharged me, which I spoke about in the book, he said, you've been sectioned 3 times, you're 27 years old, and you need to figure something out. This is the doctor telling, this is the NHS. You guys are meant to be figuring something out for me. He was saying, we'll help you, but I'm happy he did that though.
Yeah.
Because I feel like most people that go through what I've been through, they just rely on the system. Yeah. He forced me to like look for stuff outside of the system.
Yes.
Outside of the traditional, because you get the intervention team that come to your house every 2 days just to ask you regular questions like, are you taking the medication? Are you sleeping well? Are you eating? Those are good questions, but like, that's not going to help me. You're talking about someone that had like a very big breakdown. Do you know what I mean? Someone that literally lost their mind. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So like, if I'm eating, if I've taken my medication, those are the questions I want to ask. I want to know the root causes. I want to know, okay, the diagnosis they gave me was schizophrenia.
Yes.
I want to know more about that. Do you know what I mean? I only know it from how it's defined in the Black community.
Yes.
Which is like he could be possessed, or hearing voices is demonic, or then you've got how it's defined in the Western world.
Yes.
How you're having a split personality, or do you know what I mean? Yes. I want to know about, I want to have conversation. There's so much conversations I wanted to have. So first thing I did was go to Google and type who's been sectioned before, black male, how did they get through it, what did they do, and I couldn't find
Anything.
and that's where the anger and the frustration grew.
And we will come back to that. So thank you very much for sharing with us what our topic is actually about. And I found it because when I started reading the book, right, I thought Shocka was, let's say, a name that will just pop out because your friends might actually call you names, or you might find a rapper, because as a rapper you want to, bring those kind of names alive. And I found out that the meaning, the purpose that you found for that name was spiritual healer. Others can know around them.
It's around them, yeah.
Around them. And throughout the book, it was actually manifesting that you wanted that kind of be the light around people,
Yeah.
to be able to shine, and it's really manifested.
What it
throughout in the
basically
book.
means is that like the more I'm vulnerable and the more I'm open about my story, other people get to see what that looks like, yes, and get to make the decision if they want to emulate or if they want to share their story one day. So I mean, just by being the example. That's what it means. That's what it means.
Fantastic. So let's take it a step back. You grew up in Tottenham, in a Nigerian household.
Yeah.
How was it like growing up in a Tottenham, in the British environment, and how did your Nigerian heritage shape your experience and identity?
My household wasn't super Nigerian off though,
Okay.
because my mum was kind of like, she was like a cool mum, if you know what I mean. You know, you have like, there's like the African, do you know what I mean? Where like, when you come into the person's house, it's like you just got into Nigerian.
Yeah.
But it's like, my house didn't feel like that. My house still felt pretty, like I was in the UK. But the Nigerian core values was there.
Yes.
If you know what I mean. Like
The values would never run out.
Nigerian core values are so deep. They were so strong. The food was there.
Yes.
The pounded yam, the goosey soup, the
Yes.
raw soup, all the African movies.
Yes.
My mother's a big movie watcher.
The Nollywood.
The Nollywood wasn't there at the time when I was younger.
Oh, is it?
Because Nollywood was pretty new.
Is it really?
No.
No,
'Cause I don't remember, unless I wasn't watching it.
Yeah,
but
you might not be watching it.
Yeah.
Nollywood has been there.
Is it?
Yeah, it's been there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my mum used to have all the African, I didn't know it was Nollywood,
Movies,
the
yeah.
channel, but she used to have on cassettes and
The cassettes,
and
yeah.
CD players. There.
VHS.
Yeah, my mum loved. She's a proper movie watcher.
Wow.
You see African movies as well. So that's where like, it's funny because my mum was an avid churchgoer, but I felt like because of those African movies have like such a deep spiritual undertone.
Yeah.
I felt like I was going to church through those movies.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Because they'll be having a contrast between the church and the demon.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the only place you really see those battles.
You see those
No
powers
one thinks that way. And it's weird because like, something inside me gravitated towards it
Mm-hmm.
because I would only come to watch it when something like that's come. My mum would call me and be like, come and watch your favorite part.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I only come to watch it when that's happening. So like, it was proper in my DNA.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
it was probably embedded.
And as you made mention of that, the Nigerian core values were there, but you still had that experience of your Britishness.
Yeah.
What would you classify as a challenge growing up, especially in Tottenham? Because Tottenham itself has had bad press.
Especially where I'm from. I'm from Broadwater Farm.
I was about to come to
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You know, which Broadwater farms have actually given rise to prominent rappers like
Yeah.
Heady One,
Yeah.
Abracadabra,
And okay.
you know, all of these rappers have been able to show that you can come from Broadwater farms, and even you yourself,
Yeah.
we can actually miss that. It actually showcases that you can end up being in such an environment, but that does not define you.
Yeah.
But in that moment in time that, let's say, you might not have actually seen anyone coming out of there successful, what would you classify as your biggest challenge?
I think the challenge was the lack of opportunities. I think people don't take advantage of like how privileged they are to have opportunities. There's people in other countries that are dying. Do you know what I mean? Everything starts from opportunities.
Yes.
Whoever we see that is like really successful, someone gave them an opportunity. Someone gave them a hand. Do you know what I mean? Or opened the door for them along the way. And like even music, that was back door for me. I wanted to be a footballer. I know everyone has that football story.
Wow, I never knew about that.
Yeah.
You didn't even share in the book as well.
Yeah, I didn't mention that in the book. Yeah, I had trials for Crystal Palace. Yeah, I was really wanting to be a football player. The only thing that stopped me is that we didn't have the opportunities that they have today.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Today, you can be kicking ball and posting it on the social media,
And
and before you know it, Ronaldo can like it. Whereas that before, to get to even a scout to even see you,
it was a big
it
challenge.
was a big challenge. So I think lack of opportunity. That's why the fact I'm still young and I'm in this social media era, that's why I'm taking it so serious.
Yeah.
If you go on my Instagram, it's not a play.
It's not.
I don't just post on there for fun. Everything I do on there is purpose driven because I understand like this tool that we have is so powerful.
It's life changing.
You got the world in your pocket.
Yeah.
Whereas like they don't see it like that because they're in this era, they're used to having it. They're forgetting that I came from an era where it's like my new album that I'm working on, it's called The People Choose Their Kings.
Okay.
And the reason why I called it that is because the group that I was in order for us to get to the masses at that time, we needed a record label to put us on TV, to put us on radio. And we couldn't get to the masses because we was a three black boys. Remember Marvel, one was Ghanaian, one was Nigerian, one was Ugandan. And the record labels didn't want to sign us because they said we didn't know how to. No, we got signed to an independent label. Yeah. But I mean a major record label like a Sony or Atlantic. Yeah. They couldn't sign us because they said we didn't know how to market you guys to like white England. Do you know what I mean? Wow. So we missed that opportunity because of that. Whereas like we was already getting traction from the white England they couldn't market us to. Yeah. So we was already had evidence that they liked us. We just needed you to just, push the button and just show us to them. But we missed out on that opportunity. Whereas now, 2025,
there's been a lot of doors that's been kicked down.
You could just post on your phone and people get to choose for themselves.
Exactly.
They was choosing for the people. So before they would manufacture artists and say, look, this is the next star. Now the people have so much choices. Yeah. They can choose for themselves. So like that's a beautiful thing.
That's good. And did music play any role in your upbringing? Helped you to navigate?
100%. 100%.
What kind of music was being played at home?
So I'm an only child.
Yeah.
So I don't have no brothers, no sisters. So it's not like I had an older brother coming to me saying, make sure you do this, make sure you stay away from this kind of girl. I literally had to bump my head to learn everything that I've learned. So all the artists that I was listening to was like my older brothers and my father figures.
Okay.
Like Tupac's albums.
Yes.
Those are like Bibles. Nas's albums. When Nas had that song, I know I can be what I want to be. That was like,
that song is actually a motivation.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So all those kind of, I was learning how to navigate the world through rappers, really. Yeah. They were like our big brothers.
And I remember you made mention of Kendrick Lamar's for
exactly.
You actually juxtapose Kendrick Lamar's first name, Kendrick, and you're called Kenneth.
Yes, exactly. He's from Tottenham.
Tottenham.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So when I came out of hospital, I was deciding whether I'm going to continue to do music
Mhm.
because like I'm an artist that I have to rap about my life experiences.
Yes.
And like I was in a weird place because I was like, oh my God, I've just been sexual, so now I have to talk about this.
Yes.
And like the scene that I came from, which is the grime scene,
Yeah.
they laugh at that kind of stuff. Like, oh, he's a madman, or like he's been sectioned, or do you know what I mean? So for me to go back into that world and have to talk about these experiences,
Exactly.
I wasn't too sure.
Whether to do it or not.
Yeah, or
Someone has to do it.
how it will be
Because
perceived.
this is something, it's actually a later part of the conversation, but this is something that I've always been eager to talk about when I started my advocacy, that the music industry does not address successes and failures
Exactly.
much. Because, for example, let's say a rapper has actually had massive sales with their first album. They are
Yeah,
topping the charts,
yeah,
not only in the UK, but globally.
yeah,
They're on the charts, their albums, they're going the tours. Then the second album dips.
yeah.
Who is there to actually pat their back that, brother, sister, it's part of the journey?
Yep.
So you just have to keep your head up, because they don't tell you that there's the time and season for everyone.
Yes, exactly.
You know, whereby your number one album today,
Yeah,
if it's actually been adjudged to any album be released right now, could not even make that numbers,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
that time was your season. So you
Yeah.
need to get your head around there. So we will come back to that. So
And just at that point,
yeah.
that's what I loved about Americans, because they were so much mature than us.
Hmm.
Look at Lauryn Hill's first album. She was really young when she wrote that. You know Miseducation of Lauryn Hill? Have you heard that album?
I've not listened to the album, but I've heard the title. Yeah.
That album is like the Bible for women.
Really? I know that she's actually into women empowerment.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's like if you have a daughter, or when we do have daughters, we have to give them that album.
That album.
That album is like the blueprint.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And like I never had that as a man.
Yeah.
Like it's a shame that I had to get to like 27 before I started even hearing the word mental health. That word wasn't even uttered when I was in school. Do you remember hearing? How do you?
You know, you want me to give my age? I'm in my late 20s.
Okay.
Yeah. But I will tell you, I actually ended up listening to getting to know more about mental health when I experienced it
Yeah.
after a grief. So after I lost my granddad, who is the one who raised me, I felt like my whole world has crashed.
Yeah.
I'm the first person to hear the news, and
Yeah.
I have to
And
let
everyone. Ooh, yeah.
and I could hear, because my mom was outside and people know that my granddad was not feeling well in Ghana.
Yeah.
So I remember someone asked her just before I heard
How
the
is-
news, how is he? I was like, oh yeah, I called this morning. They said he's doing well, and I'm even trying to go back home to go and see him before.
Yeah.
Then I said to myself, you don't even know the news I've heard.
Yeah.
What you are saying is
Yeah.
just a mirage.
Yeah.
Then I went out, the sky was dark.
Yeah.
And I said to my mom that I didn't even know how I relayed it, but
Yeah.
the ones I remember was my granddad is gone.
Yeah.
Then it had a toll on me. So I went on Google to search, because all the signs I'm having, it's like, this looks like depression.
Yeah.
So there was a voice telling me.
Yeah.
So I went on Google and I typed it. I was like,
Same. I would.
damn.
Yeah.
I said, no. I said to myself, this is the first, like, God, no way, no, it's not me.
Yeah.
But what helped me was 2 days before I found, because I found on a Thursday, Saturday I was on a flight to Ghana for the funeral.
Yeah.
So when I went back from the funeral, I felt some kind of relief,
Yeah.
but it still didn't go.
Yeah.
It made me feel like if I find myself in a lonely environment, those memories
Will
start
come
to
back.
trigger.
Yeah.
So all the time, what I found was I need to be in the midst of people. So the day that I came back to England after the funeral, that very morning, immediately I got home and I dropped my bags, I wore my uniform and went straight back to school. People were like, oh, you just came back. I said, you don't know what I've been battling.
Yeah.
If I end up getting myself stuck in the household right now,
I'm not coming out.
I'm not coming out.
Yeah.
It might be bad. So that weekend, it came back. I felt so bad of myself that around the same time, that day that I came back, one of my mates too, unfortunately, got killed
Yeah.
that very night. So that even made the weekend even long for me. I said, I'm grieving. I've not recovered. The next moment, your mate has been killed.
Yeah.
So it was really, really hard. So around that time, that was when I started doing the research, because before me, I've never heard anyone talk about it.
That's what I'm saying. And it's not like people wasn't experiencing it. They
People
wasn't.
isn't it?
They was, but they just didn't know how to articulate it, or they didn't know how to. But to be fair, if I'm gonna give our parents' generation grace, they didn't even have the luxury to even sit down and do podcasts like this, or to even. I mean, they had to look after us.
Exactly.
They had to come to this country.
They have to leave their family
Yeah,
at home
exactly.
to come and set up their new life. Because
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
time, it was one conversation I had, and someone was like, do you think our parents never experienced mental health?
They did.
And she gave examples like, oh,
They
damn.
did, yeah.
They actually did, but they kept their mouth shut.
Yeah.
We were their source of joy. So if it didn't happen for us, then it means that they'll feel like a failure.
And I don't think they knew the repercussions it was going to have on the generation next. I think they just thought maybe I could just sweep this under
Let me
the rug
another.
and then they'll be fine. But I don't think they knew that, like, the fact that they didn't address it.
Yeah.
Someone has to address it eventually.
Exactly.
And that's what we're doing. I mean, really, we
Right.
should be relaxing. But, like, you know, we're addressing the mess from.
But right now that we have started in our generation, I believe the generation behind us or the generation coming would be able to easily, talk about it.
Yeah,
in the household.
that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I'm fighting for this in the first place, is that the generation coming after, not saying they're not going to have problems will be here,
It's gonna
but
be
they'll have it'll be such a different conversation.
for us to actually have that conversation.
To be able to conversate, to have the tools to deal with it, it'll be such a different conversation.
Fantastic. And you made mention that you started as a music group called Marvel, which was made up of Vertex and Double S.
Yeah.
And later you went on the solo career with a breakthrough freestyle that you did about Grenfell Tower
Yeah.
in 2017.
Yeah.
What inspired you to step into mental health advocacy?
My experience, that I experienced it, and the fact that I couldn't find no one to help me. So I knew I was at a crossroads. I knew it's either I continue down the path that the other people did, which was keep quiet and pretend like nothing happened, or I go down this unknown path and share my story and just see where it leads me and see where it takes me. And I chose to take the unknown path. But do you know what helped me make that decision?
No.
It was The Matrix. Have you watched The Matrix before?
I haven't watched The Matrix, but I know about the pills, the red pill.
Everyone knows the pill. But you know what part in The Matrix helped me?
No.
There's a part where he opens the door for Neo and there's a long road. And he says, you can go down this road, but you know what's there already. You can see the road. You've been down this road before. Or you can follow me in this car and we can go to Wonderland. You can see where it leads. And he went to Wonderland and he became Neo. And I remember thinking about that in the movie, because that was my favorite. I watched that movie over and over. And I thought about that part and I was like, do you know what? I'm going down Wonderland. Let's see what happens. And I did it. And, it's been a beautiful journey ever since.
And
but it hasn't been easy though.
It wouldn't be.
Family, everyone was against me.
Yeah.
You're embarrassing the family. You can imagine.
It's an African household. What would you expect?
I'll do a BBC documentary and someone will call my mum and say, Kenneth's on the telly talking about, it was. I remember when I signed my record deal, I think I spoke about this, and my mum was like, how many comments did it get on Instagram? And I was telling her, and she was so happy. And then when I got sectioned and she came to visit me, I posted a picture that we took in hospital, and I put it on my Instagram. And my mum was like, take it off, take it off. Yeah, exactly. She's like, take it off. So I realized something about the African community is that, like, we like to celebrate the good stuff, but hide the bad side.
And you made mention of that in your book, what section, where you said that the stigmatism or the silence around mental health, I think you made mention of something as it is the pride that we have in always experiencing the good stuff that allows people to end up carry on to have the shame of mental health as an outcast. So when you experience that, you feel like an outcast. And it really resonated to me. I was like, that's also a good point, because with me, I thought it was just the lack of education around it, but I didn't take it from the point of view that we come from a space that only the good stuff has to be projected. So if you're not associated with the good stuff, stay behind. You're an outcast. You're not part of it. You're not part of the community. But I'm like, to what degree are we going to end up pushing people out of the community for them to suffer on your own? So it doesn't mean that, God forbid, someone actually gives birth and all the children has actually one way or another has to battle with their mental health.
It's also the competitive nature in us, especially in the African community. We're always like, I know everyone has heard their mum say that, why can't you be like Jeremy? Do you know what I mean? My when I didn't do my homework and I had next door neighbors, Isaac, one of my next door neighbors, Isaac, like they was really like academic and did their thing. And my mum was, they'll say it, not knowing what they're saying, how harmful it is. They're like, why can't you finish your work like Isaac? Or like, there's always competition. So just now imagine this. So imagine now I get section, and Isaac's mum comes to the house and says, where is Kenneth? My mum's not going to want to say, because she doesn't want to look like
He's troubled or
yeah, exactly. He's traveled, or do you know what I mean? That's why when I came back from section, my mum will be like, just forget that it happened. Don't tell no one and get back on with your life. So when I started going out, they couldn't believe. It's like, what are you doing when you get that? That's not the plan. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, you move from being mental health advocate,
yeah,
you're an artist, and you use your platform. I mean, you were given a platform by TEDx London by is it Jamala?
yeah. Did I mention Jamal in the book?
You mentioned her, and you know the funny story. I know her.
Is it? How
I know her. Same space, TEDx. So I was volunteering I was volunteering at TEDx London. So that's when I met her. So when you made mention of that book, or you made mention of her in your book,
it was like, that's the same one.
it's the same person that we are
Yes.
talking that you are talking about. So by making mention of certain people in the book that I know, it makes sense. It brought life. So it's like, yeah, she's actually the one. And you made mention of your title of your TEDx, and you saw the reception. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, that was like a celebration of everything I went through.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, that was after the 3 sectionings.
So that was after the third section.
Yes. Then then things started picking back up. Remember, I did the Grenfell Freestyle 2017. Then I made Self Love. I got signed in 2018. Then 2019, the TED Talk. So it felt like a celebration after everything I went through. But I don't even think the audience knew they were celebrating with me. I don't think they knew how big that moment was. I think they knew it was special.
Yeah.
I don't think they knew how big that moment was for me. That was a really celebration. And that was one of my first talks.
Your first talk?
Yeah, because don't forget, I wasn't a speaker, I was a visual artist.
Yes.
So when she told me she could get me the TED Talk, I wasn't going to say no. I took the opportunity. But that was one of my first talks, and that was like in front of 3,000 people.
Yeah. But I know how big TEDx
is,
but I want to actually be on that platform as well, and I'm still continuing doing that. So it's actually massive. And your book, Essentially My Life, gave an insight into the despair and the disappointment you felt after your music group actually broke up, which led to your first sectioning. Before your diagnosis, did you ever suspect that you have had some struggles in the past that connected to something deeper than just a personal setbacks?
No. That's why my first breakdown was so shocking. No pun intended to my name. But that's why it was so shocking, because before that point, my whole life was like a smooth ride. Like me being the only child. So my mum made sure I was sheltered. My mum made sure I was spoiled. All the people in the area used to come to my house to play computer, because I had everything. I had PlayStation.
It felt like a silver platter.
Yeah, like I was living so, like, that's one thing I got to always, and it's Mother's Day today, so always give respect to my mum, is because the childhood she gave me was so...
She didn't make you feel like you're lacking anything.
I didn't realize till later on that, like, where are you pulling this money out from?
Exactly.
Because don't forget, I went boarding school in Nigeria too.
You made mention of that, whereby you have to go back.
I went boarding school in Nigeria for 2 years, and the school I went to was a really rich school. And like, I remember hearing my aunties talking about the school fees sometimes. And I didn't even realize that, like,
you had everything,
that my mum was like, paying for that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, childhood is great.
Yeah, sure. And you once believed that hearing voices or having delusions meant someone was cursed or possessed.
Yeah.
Can you take us back to the moment where you were first diagnosed with schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia?
That was the third time I got sectioned. So my friend got a record deal to Island Records, and he got an advance. When you get signed to a record label, they give you an advance, money up front. And he called me and said, yo, I got my advance. I want to go to Magaluf for a couple of days, which is a party island. And I'm not going to say no. And at that time, I was so idle. I was doing nothing. So imagine doing nothing and getting a phone call. Even if he said, let's go to Oxford Street, I would have went with him. But imagine him saying, let's go to Magaluf. and he's paid for the ticket and everything. So we went to Magaluf, and I remember my mum saying to me, make sure you take a medication with you because you're going to a whole different country, and if anything happens, you can't just run back home. We're not in London. You're not around the corner. And I heard it, but at that time, I had so much stigma around medication, which I didn't mention to nobody, but I had personal stigmas, as in like, how do I tell my friends I'm going to take my medication? How do I, pull my medication out? Is medication even necessary? You know what I'm saying? I had all these stigmas at the time, yeah? And then I went to Magaluf, and the people I went with, this is an important part for me to mention, the two people I went with was complete rock stars. The day that we landed in Magaluf, one of my friends that I went with and the promoter that booked them to come out there was taking cocaine in the back of the car. I don't know if I can say that on here, but that's when I don't smoke. I don't even smoke cigarettes. I've never smoked in my whole life. So you can imagine that's a big jump from like not smoking to like cocaine. I didn't take it, but like I just kind of knew at that moment, oh, this is gonna be a serious this is gonna be a serious journey. Because like he was the only one. All my other friends don't touch that. So like I happen to be with like the one friend that like
don't do it.
No, who does
Who
it.
does it?
Who does it. And that also showed me I happen to be with the one friend as well that if I was to have a breakdown, he wouldn't know how to help me. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, there's certain friends that you feel safe that you know that if anything happens, you lot are caring anyway. You would know how to. Those, when I was having my breakdown, so basically what happened was, after we came back from the club, I started feeling a bit funny from all the drinks that I took. I don't know if he even put something in the drink or I don't know what happened. But I started feeling a bit funny, and I started hearing my friends from the UK over the balcony.
So
And in my mind, I was thinking that's not possible because I only came with two of my friends.
Yeah.
You lot are all the way back in England. How is that possible?
So was that hallucination?
That was like the hallucination. That's my first time ever experiencing something like that, and I didn't know what was going on, but it seemed really real.
Yeah.
So real that I went down. I said, you know what? Let me go down and see
If they are there.
if you like what's going on. When I went down to see and I realized they wasn't there, that's when it just clicked. I was like, and you know, I realized the mind's so powerful that like when you do officially click, it makes it 10 times worse. It's like a placebo effect. Do you know what I mean? So at that moment when I clicked, I just started panicking, and that's the worst thing to do. And then you have to imagine that I had to keep myself composed all the way from Magaluf back to London. And we was there for like 2 days, 3 days. I remember there was a point where they came into the room just to check on me and talk to me. And they was having a conversation to me, you know, not knowing that I'm in full-blown psychosis.
Yeah.
But they was having like a regular conversation with me.
Yeah.
They didn't know the signs. They didn't know how to address it. They didn't know what to, do you know what I mean?
They don't even know where to even.
They was telling me, they even brought me back out. They even brought me back onto the strip. And I remember walking through the strip, and can you imagine like
loud music,
hearing, and all it was scary.
Not even helping.
Yeah, it was scary, man. And you're in a whole different country.
Yes.
So the scenery is different, scary, man.
Different healthcare system.
Yeah, it's scary. And it showed me that like when you're having a psychosis, it can turn a beautiful environment into a nightmare. Because the environment that I was in was actually lovely. If you put the psychosis aside, there's palm trees, there's girls, there's loud music, but that all turned against me when you're having.
I don't want to be here.
Yeah, so that was the first signs of it.
If you're listening and you're watching us, this is the Shelf Conversation, and my guest over here is Shocka. We have delved much into this beautiful conversation that we have actually started with, and we are delving into schizophrenia and also his journey on how he has dealt with being diagnosed with this psychotic disorder, which is least talked about within our community. So if you've just joined us, it's not too late. You can actually take a step back and continue from where we began so that this piece would add more value to what you're about to listen to next. So, Shocka, we've made mention of schizophrenia and your first diagnosis, and right now you have to take medication.
Yeah.
What would you consider as the biggest misconception when it comes to schizophrenia?
That you won't be able to function in society again. That you're harmful. Being harmful is the main one because like people automatically think that they can't be in a room with someone that's got like such a diagnosis. But there's levels of the schizophrenia. There's people that's at extreme level where you can't even communicate with them. But I've met other people, because don't forget, you can imagine I've got a whole community of people that I know that's perception now. So I've seen the mild cases and like the different levels.
Yeah, that's
But yeah, those are the main two. Those are the main two. And what I do want to touch on with the schizophrenia thing is that because of the stigma around it, it stops so many people from sharing their stories, which I don't like, because so many people have stories to share and experiences that they've been through, but they're scared that like if they come out and say their piece, someone's gonna label them evil or someone's gonna, do you know what I mean? And these stories are very important because like I always say that stories break stigmas.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? You can hear someone's story and it can unlock something for you, especially if they're being extremely honest. Because they'll say certain intricate details that only you and them that's had that same experience can relate to.
Yeah.
That's why I started my new show, A Section of Your Life.
Yes.
Where I speak to people that's been section, and like those stories that they're sharing are going to help. So it's helping people already, but like it's important. People, like, I can't stress how important it is, man. People need to hear these stories.
It's very, very important because we also come from a community whereby word of mouth is taken more serious.
Yeah,
In our in the African community, word of mouth is the biggest review.
yeah,
Because, for example, if you have used a product before, some people don't want to go and read about the reviews
yeah,
because they think the reviews people are being paid money. But if I come and
yeah.
ask you, Shocka, I want to buy this particular product from this shop. Have you used that shop before? It's like, oh yeah, I've used this.
And you
How do
trust me
find
as well.
and I trust you.
Yeah,
So it will have that kind of ripple effect of other people opening up and seeking for healing.
yes, exactly.
Because if no one has been able to go through it before, then the strength of one gathering everything that they have to fight or
Yeah.
to be able to stand on their feet against it becomes very, very slim. But if
Yes,
there are more
exactly.
people, because they'll be able to find solace in a lot of people, because you will have people patting your back that have a
Yes,
lived experience, have gone
exactly,
through it and they come alive.
exactly.
So you have that kind of faster recovery.
Yes.
Because
And that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
It was the stories that I heard that really healed me. Aside from the medication, aside from the doctor's appointments, when I started seeing other people that had been sectioned and we started, you know, having conversations and laughing about certain parts of it, that is the most healing experience ever.
Fantastic. And also in the book, you made mention in one of the chapter that men need help. You wrote that when you speak about suicide, they say you are too open. But when a guy dies, they question why he had never spoken.
Yeah.
Is
That's a
this
poem, by the way.
Yeah, it's a poem.
Yeah.
Is this like something that you have experienced it yourself that people didn't actually come to your aid, or is it happening to someone very closer to you that you drew
Both.
inspiration?
It's happened to myself and it's happened to people close to me, where someone will say like, how come she never spoke? But then I remember when he was trying to speak and it was being dismissed and people weren't taking it serious. So that's why I made that album, Vulnerability is the New Cool, because I was trying to like redefine how we look at vulnerability. Because like that word, if we can look at it in the right way and apply it, it can really help, because that's what helped me, being able to like, you know, express my vulnerability, and like that helped me so much, and it can help so many other people.
Yeah.
And as Black people, we've got a power where we make things cool in society. And I think about the stuff that we make cool and it's ridiculous. We'll make like twerking cool, or like, you know, certain champagne cool.
Cool, yeah.
So that's why I said vulnerability is the new cool, because I thought if we can make something like vulnerability cool in the Black society, do you know how much healing that could do?
That actually come with.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the whole idea behind it.
And for those who may not know, can you explain what being sectioned in the UK is like? Can you paint us a picture?
Being sectioned, so they come and get you from, it depends how you be sectioned. How I was sectioned is that obviously I was having a breakdown and it was worrying for the people that was watching it. So like my aunties, my mum, so they got me set. I don't think you can, I found that you can section yourself. I never knew that.
You can walk into a psychiatrist.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought like someone has to section you, because most of the times when I got sectioned, someone made the call and they come and get you. That's a scary process as well, because just seeing ambulance is a scary thing.
Yes.
I don't think, is there any positive side of seeing an ambulance? And the only positive side I can think is maybe if you might have cut yourself by accident.
Yeah.
And then you've called them and they've saved you just on time. But apart from that scenario, most times when you see an ambulance, it's a very scary sight. And plus, you don't know where you're going because you're in psychosis. So you wake up in a ward in most cases. And now you have to get familiar to where you are.
Yeah.
And then the patients as well, the patients' behaviors that you're seeing. You know, most of these people that you see speaking on the street and that you cross the road when you see them, that's the person you're having breakfast with.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to run.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, this is
The
you,
person.
this is you and this person. That's it.
And sometimes you just want to have your own
Space.
but this person is
This person's there, another person's exhibiting this behavior, and like it takes a lot of mental strength. Because I always say that like the longest I got section for was 2.5 weeks, and I always say that if it was any longer than that, I don't know if I'll be the same person I am today, because you get affected by your environment naturally.
Yeah.
So the longer you stay in, I know people that's been in that environment for like 6 months or maybe a year, and like I've got so in tune that like I can meet someone, I can tell that they've been sectioned. There's like a look and there's an energy to that person that they don't even know that they're admitting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just by being in that environment for so long. So yeah, it's yeah.
And what were your experiences like in the mental health system? And did you feel supported, or it became more of a struggle?
I was actually really lucky. I feel like I was guided because I've spoken to other people that's been sectioned and they had terrible experiences. Someone told me someone tried to make them take cocaine.
On the ward?
On the ward. Someone got in fights on the ward. Like, there's so many people had so many different experiences to me. Do you know what? Maybe it's because I never used to come out my room a lot. The nurses used to always laugh at me when they used to come in, because they have to check on you to see what everyone's doing. And they'll be like, when I come out my room, they'll be like, oh yeah, he's come out. But I did that deliberately because I didn't want to get too lost in the world that was going on.
Yeah.
But so that's probably why I probably missed out on a lot of stuff that could have affected me. But I've spoken to patients where they've said that nurses have spoken to them in a certain kind of way, like in a rude way or disrespectful way or like less than human. I never really experienced that.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was really lucky.
That's good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is where time will give us.
That
I think
happens.
we need to have a part 2.
That happens. So, what, is that an hour already?
It's an hour already.
Jesus.
And I think we need to have a part 2 because we wanted to actually delve into other parts.
Yeah, we have to. We have to do a part 2.
Are you happy for us to?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, thank you very much.
Of course.
To my viewers and listeners, this is where time will give us for us to end our conversation with Shocka. But the good thing is that Shocka has actually agreed for us to bring a part 2 of this
do the part 2.
conversation. So if you are watching this or you are listening this, there's going to be a follow-up to this conversation. So make sure that you stay in touch and stay tuned. Stay blessed. Thank you.